at 6 o'clock this morning. I was jumping from station to station, but there was somebody advertising on the radio about I think this was a benefit type deal, that they were talking about bringing in feral cats, and some organization was going to furnish, spaying and neutering and rabies and various and sundry things. But the thing that caught my ear, I think, was that they were going to mark these animals by notching one of their ears or something or another, so if in the future, the animal control saw this cat, that they would know that it had been through, the inoculation and neuter spay program or whatever. So, and like I say, I jumped around all over the band of the radio, and I don't know whether this was coming out of Charlotte or what, but I thought it was interesting, and that, especially in light of the fact that we were meeting today to discuss these things. So,
yeah, I mean, people, there are successful trap, neuter, and release programs around. There's not really a cohesive one in Spartanburg, but there's been some success in other places. The problem, most of the feral cats that we handle are from animal control, and those, I think Jamie would tell you, it's a complaint-driven process.
Well, and when I was listening to that, my mind started thinking about this, and I wished I had found out exactly what radio station it was so I could get some more information. But now you tipped on something that I had the question about, was a release program. I mean, if they go through all this, I mean, would they just release them back into the population, or?
That's back where they came from.
How long does the rabies shot? How long's the rabies shot good for in a cat? One year.
That saves it all.
Yeah, it saves it all. 1 year and
state law mandated.
And then after the year, it's every 3 years, right?
Well, the way the state law reads, it's mandated an annual shot unless it's through a certified vet that gives a 3-year inoculation. So, and that's all animals. It doesn't specify dog or cat weight or size or anything like that.
But is it possible to take a feral cat, though, and make it a quote adoptable animal
in a shelter setting?
Yeah.
I mean, there's maybe a kitten, if it's young enough.
Yeah.
Like an adult cat that is, if it's truly feral, it's not placeable in an adoption program. The alternatives for them are go back and be altered, and then, that from Jamie's end, I'm sure he'd be probably concerned about some public nuisance things, maybe the bird conservancy folks get up in arms about the songbird populations that are killed. But from a purely population management standpoint, if they go back out and are altered, at least they're solved. That problem is solved.
Yeah, that increases. I mean, it would, and I don't have a fathomable idea about how long it would take for that to substantially decrease the population of feral cats. But what Sandy, and I don't want to apologize for being off on this one particular subject out here, but is there an answer to decrease the numbers of feral cats in Spartanburg County?
But, I mean, trap, neuter, and release hasn't really been tried in any kind of really, pushed effort. There are people in the community, like our clinic and Animal Allies, both see feral cats, on a pretty routine basis. So there are individuals in the community who trap neighborhood cats and bring them into us or to that, especially since we've been having a $5 or $15 to sterilize any cat that came from PetSmart charities. So we've seen an increase, but people in their own neighborhoods have been trapping them. But there's only a couple. There's not really a big cohesive push toward it. But I mean, it's worked in some places. Like I said, that's maybe from our perspective. I mean, we can sterilize them and put them back. It's not, but the problem I think comes from James.
On the enforcement side, they would actually be in violation of our county ordinance because they would be allowed to run free. And if an individual was to trap that animal and pay for the process to be done and release them, basically the individual is taking ownership of it.
In Charleston's rewritten some ordinances to allow for feral cat colony managers and some of the things that kind of need to be in place from the legislative end to allow for, I guess allow for the colonies to exist, people to maintain them and manage them. and sterilize them, get them rabies shots and that, but not be in violation so that they're getting, you know, a slew of citations. I think in Charleston, it's probably a little too early to see if it's worked for long-term, but Jacksonville, Florida has a pretty similar program. Actually, it's where Charleston got their idea from. And they're, I think about 40–50% of their cats, when they come in and get sterilized, they go right back. So whether that is a problem facing a 5-day hold, Charleston doesn't hold them 5 days either. They come in and they're either euthanized or sterilized, and if they're sterilized, they go right back. So, you know, I don't know how they're dealing with their.
Without a 3-day, 2-day, 5-day holding period, it's just automatic in Charleston.
That's my understanding.
Well, if you're
Jamie,
not euthanizing the animal, then if you're doing what you're saying and releasing it back, then there's no need to hold it. But we had in Spartanburg County in the past, and I don't know, somewhere we got away from it. We tried to get the citizens of Spartanburg County more responsible for their animals, to get them sprayed, neutered, whatever, get them fixed, and you don't have this problem that you got. But it didn't. Did that work, or?
I'm not sure how.
Well,
Sorry.
Excuse me, let me, I'll mention this. Animal Allies, several years ago, got a grant through community development to go into UNI, I believe it was, free spay neuter to people with their animals. They had to beg people. They had trouble spending the money. So even if it's cheap or free, doesn't necessarily mean people are going to take advantage of it.
But if you look at a 10-year, it doesn't apply to cats, but if you look at the data from the last 10 calendar years, the aggressive spay-neuter efforts that have been in play between the Humane Society and Animal Allies has significantly, there's a downward trend of puppies coming in. There's probably 40% less puppies today than there was, 9 years ago. But the same cannot be said for cats and kittens, or I'm sorry, for kittens. The graph is kind of all over the place, and that's why we focused our efforts on cats. And like I said before, PetSmart Charities came through with about $142,000 to sterilize nothing but cats, and that's when we've been offering it the last 2 years for $5 or $15. But we're not done quite spending the money yet, and so it's a little early to say. It's too early to say that it's had any kind of impact.
Do you track the numbers of the actual animals that you?
Yeah.
One thing, it's been a policy in the Humane Society for, I know now, more than 10 years, that adopted animals must be spayed and neutered. So at least with that 10-year track record, we probably reduced substantially the number of stray animals and wanted animals. But we need to keep doing it more and more because we're trying to treat the cause of the problem.
And the cost differential between the services that may be offered throughout Spartanburg and what will be charged for spaying and neutering from the Humane Society, is they greatly different?
We're a little cheaper than Animal Allies, but comparable. And after us too, the price goes dramatically up. We're both low cost, so that's in keeping with both of our missions to try to reduce the number of animals coming to the shelter. And like I said, it's worked for puppies, but there are cats all over the place. So.
Is there any? What is a number, say, for Spartanburg County for cats?
It would be a strict estimation on any point, as
I've heard some phenomenal numbers. It just,
and the problem we're talking about here, and even with the spay and neuter problem, and dealing with the owned animals, when you talk about feral cats, 90% of those are your barn cats that everybody has, and just let run wild. And with that one barn cat running wild with all the other animals, that's where it has just exploded. And that's kind of what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with a past problem that has eventually crept up on us to where we're at now.
But I mean, there's feral cats probably at every convenience store, every grocery store, every restaurant, and back dumpsters. I mean, there's feral cats all over the place. I mean, you don't have to drive very far down the roads in Spartanburg County if you can see a dead cat. And whether or not it was feral, you know, nobody really knows. But there are some what's the word? There are some formulas that are out there to try to make an estimate of how many cats might be in the community based on population and the numbers from some studies that, you know, that for-profit industries do on pet ownership. But, you know, they don't always take into account some of the things that are particular to this area. It's a little rural and obviously in places, and, you know, there's probably even more cats out there. And, but feral cats are definitely something.
In one instance that we dealt with this past year, we had 3 citizens living together in a mobile home, and they had something like 50 cats that lived with them inside the mobile home, and had the vents ripped out of the floor so the cats could go in and out as it pleased. None of those animals had been spayed, never inoculated or anything.
But you're talking about that single wire?
Yes.
I think it was more like 150 cats, 127, 137.
Large number.
I mean, in one single.
You know,
wire.
that's just one location, so you can take those animals that were living, that were actually centralized to that one, but at night when they went out and, you know, they would populate the rest of the community.
How would you cite something like that?
What we actually did was, cite them for animal cruelty because of the living conditions on the inside. Condemned the structure because it was unfit for human habitat, and, cited them per animal. Now, what they decided to do was release all the animals to us, which in turn was take directly to the Humane Society, and then I imagine, I don't know if any more adopted or not.
If there were some, there were not very many. They were in horrible condition.
You know, that's just one small instance where the animals were centralized, where the feral cats or the colonies that you're speaking of, you know, those animals are not centralized, they're just scattered throughout.
That doesn't happen that often, is that?
The hoarding situation like that, we usually deal with it at least 2 a year, but now whether it's dogs, cats, that varies.
Hadn't happened. Chickens,
I've done a chicken
Well,
case. That
well,
was disgusting.
Well, the largest chicken case was an actual narcotics bust that took place in the Woodruff area. And they were also fighting, I believe,